It's Appalachia Spooky Story Time, y'all, and this story is very different than my others, which is exactly why I chose it, and I want to know what you all think about it. This story comes from one of my followers named Katie. It is pretty terrifying. If you are scared easily and you're watching this at night, I would just save it and wait until the morning. Katie said she grew up in the Midwest, but when she was in 7th grade, her family moved to Western North Carolina. It was her dad, her mom, her sister, and her. Katie said that they moved into this very old farmhouse, and even though it was an older farmhouse, it was quite big, and she said that they had a lot of woods back on the property. There was some field areas where there was some farmland, things like that. But directly from her room, because she was on the 2nd story, she had a window, and she could see out into the back of the woods. Just a few feet into the woods, there was an old shed, and she could see the shed from her bedroom window. She said the shed always kind of creeped her out a little bit because it was old, it was back in the woods, and just gave her weird feelings. But she noticed almost every evening her dad would go out into the shed. Sometimes he would only be out there for a few minutes, and then sometimes he would be in this shed for like hours and had no idea what he was doing. She said occasionally she would look out her window and would see lights on in the shed, and so she knew her dad was in there. One morning she looked out her window and there was a big padlock that had been added on to the shed. She thought this was really odd, so she asked her dad about it, and her dad basically told her and her sister that he put the padlock on there to keep people from breaking in because he had some tools that were stolen out of the shed. Then as he was going to leave, he looked back at her and her sister and was like, "Yeah, I don't ever want you all going near that shed." They're like, "Why? What's up with the shed?" And he was like, "Don't ask questions. I'm your dad. Just listen to me. I don't want you all near the shed." Here's where things get really odd, though. She said one evening she saw her dad go down to the shed. That was pretty normal. She goes to bed, but in the middle of the night, she wakes up because she hears her mom screaming her dad's name. She wakes up and she's like, "Mom, what is going on?" And she's like, "I can't find your dad. He never came back from the shed." Mom was like, "I'm going to go check the shed. You girls just stay in here and I will be right back." Within just a matter of minutes, her mom comes running back through the door and calls an ambulance because she had found her husband slumped over in the shed. While they're waiting on the ambulance, all 3 of them run out to the shed and they're with the dad while he is just like slumped over. He is alive, but he's just not acting right. The ambulance gets there and they say only one person can ride in the ambulance with the dad, so the wife went and she told the daughters just to wait at the house and to take the day off school. Guys, this is so weird. After they leave to go to the hospital, the 2 girls stay and they're like looking in the shed and there's nothing in there. You know how she said she always saw a light on in the shed? There was no electricity in the shed. There was no lanterns, no electricity. It said hanging on the walls, there was like bird feathers and some rabbit feet. And there was like a small work desk with a few carving knives and a notebook. She said when she opened up the notebook, she saw her father's handwriting in there, but then on other pages, the handwriting was completely different. And it was all just like mumbled jargon that she couldn't understand. And then written in the floorboards were like carvings of different symbols. Some of them looked very fresh. Some of them looked super, super old. Her and her sister were super freaked out, felt very unsettled, and just went back into the house. Her dad was eventually discharged from the hospital and was diagnosed with having a stroke. So he came home, he had to walk with a cane, but ultimately was okay. She told her mom about what she found in the shed, so the mom confronted the dad. Apparently the dad just wouldn't talk about it. He just shut down, would not talk about what was in the shed. She said she started to hear her parents fighting a lot, like late at night. The one thing that her dad was always adamant about was that he wanted to continue to go down to the shed, even with his cane, even with like his disability from having the stroke. He was like adamant in the evenings that he still wanted to go out to the shed, and that was the main source of arguments from her parents. Okay, but then it gets even more bizarre. Eventually, months and months and months later, her dad got pneumonia. He was already declining from his stroke. He ended up passing away. After her dad's passing, Katie, her mom, and her sister ended up moving to a smaller home in the city, but she always wondered about that shed, like she couldn't stop thinking about it. Katie and her sister decided to do some research on the home. Turns out this home had had multiple owners over the last 20 years. Like almost every year, the house was put up for sale and bought by someone else. She tried to contact a couple of the previous owners just to like get more information about why they sold the home, anything odd that happened, whatever. And nobody would talk to her. Everyone, as soon as she started asking, just shut down and refused to speak to her. Except for one woman who said that her husband had also suffered a stroke in the shed. She said to this day she has not returned to the property. She does not intend to, but she knows that there is something evil inside of that shed. What do you all think happened here? Let me know what you think in the comments, and if you want more spooky stories, then just follow along.
I had to turn on all my lights after reading this story. If you're new here, hi. I usually talk about some pretty scary stuff, and today I'm going to be talking about a story that I've been kind of putting off making the video for. And a huge driving factor on this, and now I'm going to be fully transparent about this. I'm not a fan of making videos about demonic things or demons specifically because every single time I've made a video, whether it's my personal experience or if it's someone else's, I hear things in either the background or in the audio and I have to reshoot it, something every single time. I've also had instances where my dogs are growling at things that are not there, so you get the gist on why I'm a little hesitant to make videos about demonic things. But without further ado, let's get into it. This story comes from Lexi, who lives in West Virginia and lives in a very haunted house. She says that the hauntings started around the time when she was 6. Just for context purposes, she was 4 when her parents got a divorce, and her mom started seeing this man when she was around 6 years old, and shortly after, all of these hauntings started. And at first, it was small occurrences, like her mom telling her to pick up her toys, so she would do so, and when they would come back, the toys would be scattered all across the floor. And she mentions during these instances, her mom and her both were afraid because they both knew that it was almost impossible for these things to be happening. But they continue to brush off these little noises, these little occurrences, because they could be coincidental. And Lexi says that this continued for 2 years before her mom's boyfriend moved in, and his parents actually lived down the street from Lexi's mom, where all of this stuff is occurring. And one night, Lexi, her mom, and her mom's boyfriend go down to his parents' house to have dinner. A couple of his cousins were over with their kids, and there was this little girl there who was like 2 years older than Lexi at the time. So, little girl was 10, Lexi was 8. And when they were playing, this little girl just out of the blue says, "Did you know that there's an old woman who lives in the bedroom upstairs?" And at the time, she thought it was creepy, but she just kind of brushed it off, thinking that the little girl was just trying to scare her. A couple days later, her mom is walking up the stairs to use the bathroom, and Lexi just tells her mom, "Hey, little girl's name, said that there is a woman who lives in the bedroom upstairs." Her mom kind of turns around and is like, "Which bedroom?" So Lexi walks upstairs, gets the door, and goes to look in and points and says, "This one." And as she does, she did in fact see a woman standing there, very pale, black hair, and a long nightgown. Lexi specifically said that it looked like it was from the early 1900s. And obviously, upon seeing this, Lexi ran downstairs, and her mom was really confused until they got back to their house and she explained the entire situation. Lexi's mom's boyfriend was overhearing this conversation and asked her to describe this woman. And when she did, he then said that they had been seeing that same woman there for years. And this is where things take a turn for the worse. Lexi says from that point on, the encounters in her house that were once very small became very amplified and very scary. And she said specifically that many nights she would feel like there was something in the room with her, even more specifically, watching her sleep. But again, she brushed it off because she thought she was just scared. Until she was having a friend sleep over, and her friend woke her up in the middle of the night to specifically tell Lexi that she had seen a woman looking at her from over the footboard, just like this. And Lexi thought it was a joke until her friend described the exact same woman she had been seeing. And I guess things get even worse because after this incident, Lexi's mom begins telling her that she has been seeing her walk around the house when she's not home. She can hear Lexi talking when she's not home. And Lexi had been seeing this woman in mirrors, like when she's brushing her teeth, for example. And on top of this, and what I think is the scariest, Lexi would hear clapping when nobody else was home, and people talking when nobody else is home. And most recently, she tells me that they have 2 dogs, and she brought one of the dogs into her room when she starts to hear the other dog whining and a woman talking to her dog. So immediately she opens the door, tells the other dog, like, "Mom's home." The dog does not get up and greet her mom like he would normally do. And when Lexi walks out to go see her mom, she finds out that her mom is not home, her car is not in the driveway, and she is still at work. So again, she goes back in her room, closes the door. Clear as day, hears a woman say, "Come here, where are you?" And she can hear the dog go from whining to barking. So immediately, she thinks that someone has broken into her house. She locks her door, gets her softball bat out, and calls her mom to come home immediately. The dog she had with her began barking, and thankfully, her mom only works like 10 minutes away, so she rushed home. But during the time of her mom coming home, Lexi began to hear heavy footsteps coming towards her door. And Lexi specifically states that the energy felt so heavy, and when whatever was outside of the door got to the door, it got eerily silent, and the keychain she has on her door began swaying back and forth. Her mom then got home, found no one in the house, and Lexi believes that the spirit attached itself to her and followed them home and is not left. Because that last instance happened like 3 weeks ago. And before I get into anything else, I just have to pause and say I've had to cut a couple of things out because I was hearing banging noises on my wall. If you don't know, now you do. I either film early in the morning or late at night. I do this because then I don't have to worry about outside noises or my neighbors being awake, etc. So I don't know, and it's furthering the I don't like making videos about demons kind of thing. What really freaked me out was the clapping and obviously the lady looking over the footboard. I don't like that. And I swear I can almost see her face when I'm talking about this. And when I read it the first time, I could see her. But anyways, that's gonna do it for me. Stay tuned for more ghost stories.
Children having imaginary friends doesn't seem like a big deal until you start to see them. This story is coming from a lady named Anna, and she is a widow and she has 2 twin girls. The twins are 6 years old, and together with the mom they attended this birthday party that the mom's friend made for their child. The mom's friend's house just so happened to be really close to a cemetery. Red flags, red flags. At this birthday party the twins had a really good time. They even made new friends. So towards the end of the birthday party the twins came up to their mom and asked if they could invite their new friend to spend the night. Anna agreed that she could spend the night, but they had to go ask the girl's parents for permission and then they would take her with them. So the twins ran off to go and tell the little girl to ask the parents, and a while later they come back and tell their mom that they agreed and the little girl was gonna come and spend the night. So Anna was like, okay, cool, and looked around because only her twin daughters had came back and the friend was nowhere to be found. So when she asked her twins where's their friend, the 2 girls just looked at each other and were like, I'm not sure, maybe her parents are gonna drop her off at our house. Anna thought it was weird because she was like, well, I don't know if they know where we live, but whatever, let's just go home, and they went about their way. So when they got home, time passed, it got really late and nobody went and dropped off any girl at her house, so all 3 of them went to bed. Around midnight, Anna wakes up because she could hear her twins laughing and laughing in their bedroom. So Anna gets out of bed, goes to her twins' bedroom and gets mad at them for being loud and playing when she had just put them to bed an hour ago. She tells them that they need to go to bed and stay put. However, this was to happen every night since then. Night after night, Anna would wake up hearing her daughters laughing and playing with toys. She would go into their bedroom, get mad at them, and tell them to go to sleep. So Friday comes, and again she's awoken by her daughters playing and being loud in their bedrooms, but Anna was like, you know what, I'm gonna let them play. It's Friday, tomorrow's Saturday, they don't have to get up early, so I'm just gonna let them be. So the following day, Saturday, when they were having breakfast, the mom asked the girls if they had fun last night playing with their toys. And one of the girls admitted to mom that yeah, they had so much fun and that their new friend just made them laugh so much. Excuse me? Anna was a little shocked by that response, and she asked them, what friend are you talking about? And one of the girls was like, well, the girl from the party, remember we asked you for permission to let her come over and spend the night. When she heard that, she did get goosebumps, but then she was like, oh, they're 6 years old, they're probably making this up, they have an imaginary friend, maybe it's a stuffed animal for all she knew, so she really didn't give it that much importance. So that Saturday went pretty normal. They left the house, they went to the park, they came back home, and when it came to nighttime they all went to bed, and again the mom is woken up by the girls playing in their bedroom. So of course Anna gets up, but this time instead of opening the door, she decides to put her ear to the door and just listen in on what the girls are saying or what they're laughing at. It is there when she hears both of her daughters' voices and a third completely different voice. Anna was like, how are my twins creating a third voice? Like, how are they creating this voice that sounds completely different and pretending it's their imaginary friend? She was very curious, but she decided not to open the door just yet because she wanted to continue to hear what they were saying. So as she's listening, she then hears one of her twin daughters starts crying, and that is the moment that she opens the door and walks in. When she opens the door, she sees that both of her daughters are in the middle of the room sitting down and one of them is indeed crying. Obviously, she gets in there and asks her daughter why she's crying. That is when her daughter, in between cries, tells her mom that their friend pulled her hair and she honestly just wants her to leave already. Anna did not know how to respond to that. She didn't know how to react to that. So she just said, you know what? Let's just go to sleep. You guys shouldn't have been out of bed anyway. Please go to sleep. She told them to get some rest and that they would talk about this in the morning. The following morning, Anna did wait for the girls to bring up the conversation, but they didn't bring anything up. So she waited until dinner time to bring it up because they never brought this friend up the entire day. But because the girls are 6 years old, she decided to ask them about it in a very joking way. So she tells them, hey, where's your friend? Did she decide not to stay for dinner? Anna expected her daughters to laugh because she was trying to make a joke. However, her daughters did not laugh. They stayed very serious, and one of the girls told her she doesn't want to leave and we don't want her to be here anymore. She doesn't let us play in peace. She hits us and she pulls our hair when she gets mad, and she doesn't let us go to sleep. She always wants to play with us, but only in the middle of the night, and we're just tired of her already. After hearing this, Anna stayed at that dinner table just silent, not knowing what to say back to them. That same night, they all went to bed, and this time Anna got woken up again, except it wasn't with the laughter of her daughters. It was a completely different, strange sound. She gets out of bed, she goes to the hallway and fully expects to see her daughter's room lit up, but everything is in complete darkness. Regardless, she still headed over to her daughter's bedroom. She just wanted to make sure that everything was okay. When she opens the door, it's complete darkness, so they're not out and about playing with toys or anything like that. She decides that she's gonna get close to their bunk beds and give them a kiss goodnight and go back to sleep. As she gets closer to the bunk bed, she notices that one of the girls on the top bunk is sitting Indian style in the middle of the bed. So she tells her, hey, you should be asleep right now. You need to lay down, go to sleep because you have school tomorrow. So she was gonna give the girl on the top bunk time to lay down to give her a kiss goodnight. So in the meantime, she bent over to the bottom bunk to give the other girl a kiss. However, that is when she sees that both of her twin daughters were asleep in the bottom bunk together. Anna stayed paralyzed seeing both of her daughters in that bottom bunk. She didn't even want to look back up at that top bunk, because if both her daughters were at the bottom, who the fuck was at the top? Anna didn't know what to do. She was like, should I run? Should I wake up the girls? Should we all run together out there? Little by little, she picks up her head and is ready to just face what is up there. And when she does, there is nobody in that top bunk anymore. Even though in the moment she was very scared, Anna just thought to herself, wait, I might be hallucinating. I just woke up. I'm still sleepy. I definitely didn't see a girl up there. She decided not to wake up her daughters. She left their room and decided to go to bed. She admits that when she got into bed in the beginning, she couldn't really fall asleep because she was still a little bit scared. She was questioning what she had seen. Was she half asleep? Was it her imagination? But eventually she did end up falling asleep. However, Anna said that in between like a dream and awake state, she could have sworn that she heard a little girl ask her, can I sleep here with you? She didn't know if it was actually one of her daughters or if she was just having a dream, but of course she told the little girl, yeah, come into bed with me. Since she was still like half asleep, she just opened up the blanket and she felt when a little kid got into bed with her. However, she noticed that the kid was really cold, so in between like half and asleep, she got another blanket and put it over the little girl so that she wouldn't be so cold. A few moments later, she also hears that little girl voice ask her, can you be my mom? At that point, Anna was annoyed and she's like, I'm already your mom. Go to sleep. You have school tomorrow. The morning comes and Anna woke up super late to take her kids to school. But when she does, the twins were already ready and dressed and everything. But she notices that one of the twins has a lot of scratch marks and bruising all over her arm. She also notices that the girl's demeanor is very sad, like very depressed. So she asked her what happened. The little girl tells her mom, I don't want to live here anymore. I just want to move somewhere else. I don't want to be here. And Anna, trying to console her daughter, was like, but why? This is our home. Don't you like living here? What's going on? And that's when her daughter says, well, it's because I don't want to share you. That's when Anna got really concerned, because not only were her daughters playing with somebody, getting their hair put, scratches, she was like, why are they saying these weird things now? Like they're sharing me. She thought that with time, them not wanting to live there anymore would pass, but no, time after time, the girls were more sad, more depressed, and they didn't want to live there anymore. It got so bad that the girls didn't even want to sleep in their own bedroom anymore. They would cry crying night after night, and she would have to go in there and console them. Not only were the girls not getting any sleep, but Anna wasn't getting any sleep either, and at this point they were all hearing little footsteps all throughout the house, even though the twin girls were asleep in her bed. Anna was tired, the girls were tired, and she ended up saying, okay, we're gonna go and stay with your grandmother for a few days. Every now and again, Anna would go to the house just to grab some stuff, and she would still hear those like freaking steps throughout the house, even though she was the only one in there. There was also one time where she went to go grab some clothes for the girls, where she could swear that she heard a little girl crying in one of the bedrooms. As Anna was exiting her home, locking up, one of her neighbors came up to her. This neighbor walks up to her and says, hey, how come one of your daughters stays with your mom and you leave the other one here by herself? Why are you leaving one of your daughters here for weeks? She's lonely. Why are you doing this to her? This is not okay. Anna didn't even know what to say. She was like in shock of what her neighbor was telling her, and that's when the neighbor continued, why are you leaving her there? I see her peeking through the window. She's lonely. Please stop doing this to her. If you have no one to take care of her, bring her to my house. I'll take care of her for you, but please stop leaving her alone. And remember, there was nobody in Anna's house because both of the girls were staying at their grandmother's house with her. After that, they never went back home. They never went back to living in that house. They stayed with the grandmother. I wouldn't even know what to do in that situation. Actually, yeah, I would get the fuck out. First of all, I would have been out the first night those girls were like, oh, my friend makes me laugh so much. Fuck that. Anyway, what would you guys do? Did you guys have an imaginary friend growing up? Hopefully no. Hopefully no. Hopefully it was imaginary, actually.